And as people who believe in our nation can rise to its greatest heights that we have not yet achieved or imagined, we are here because we know deep in our bones that our country deserves better and that we have a role to play in making the future possible. This room this evening is filled with leaders, thinkers, innovators, professionals, creatives, elders, students, entrepreneurs, and proud Grenadians who refuse to sit on the sidelines. We are not here to simply witness a launch. We are here to be part of something big. The movement was born out of a clear conviction that the next chapter of Grenada must be written by all of us, those at home and those in the diaspora. That governance must be rooted in integrity, innovation, and inclusivity. That nation building requires not just leaders, but citizens who are engaged, empowered, and willing to help hold each other accountable. This evening, we come together across political backgrounds, across generations, across parishes and perspectives, not in divisions, but in purpose. This is a new kind of political home, one grounded in ideas, one fueled by data, policy, and people, one committed to lifting Grenada out of the cycles of division and into a season of genuine progress. And as we stand in New York, home to one of the largest and most influential Grenadian diaspora communities in the world, our message is clear. The diaspora is not a spectator anymore. We are stakeholders. We are partners. We are builders of the new Grenada. This evening, we will hear from leaders and visionaries who believe in Grenada that works for everyone. We still share our policy direction. We will tell our story. We will outline our why, and we'll present a path forward, one rooted in courage, discipline, and unity. But before we go further, let me just say this. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for believing that something new is possible. The movement is not a few people, and not a few people at the top. It's every single one of you in the room here this evening. So whether you traveled from Brooklyn, the Bronx, New Jersey, Boston, or flew from the tri-state area, whether you're a lifelong supporter, someone curious, or someone seeking a different way, this evening belongs to all of us. Welcome to New York, the launch of the movement. Welcome to a new vision of leadership. Welcome to a new direction of Grenada, or for Grenada. Welcome to the future we are building together. So let us begin this evening with energy, with pride, and with a belief of the future of Grenada starts right here, right now. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the movement.
Yeah.
And now it's my honor to introduce our speakers for this evening, who will share the vision, purpose, and direction of the movement. I begin with someone that you know. He works here. And if we were to use the diaspora as a context, and we know the diaspora has always been a lifeline to a homeland. Movement believes it's time to move beyond remittances and beyond sharing from the silence and into full participation. Our first speaker has played a crucial role and a critical role in the diaspora and has helped create a structure in our diaspora policy and process. Derek James, former Grenada Consul General for New York in Canada, former ambassador of the Diaspora Affairs, and now the interim general secretary of the movement. I used to call him the hardest working man in show business. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James.
Just came back from Toronto this morning, and it was a pleasure seeing the brothers and sisters in Toronto, where I served for 6 years, and here in New York for 8 years. So it was a pleasure talking to everybody, and it's good to see my good comrades, good friends here today. Brothers and sisters, let me first of all acknowledge Honorable Peter David, Parliamentary Representative for the town of St. George, the leader of the movement. You don't like the word leader, so. Brother Archie Bain, who is the chairman of the movement, Brother Archie. And Sister Jasmine Redhead, our legal counsel and member of the executive. Brothers and sisters, over the years we have done a lot of work as it relates to the diaspora. But we have seen many of our people work hard to help Grenada, because, as Peter said, when you further away you go from Grenada, you are more patriotic. And over the years, we have seen brain drain of some of the brightest sons and daughters leaving Grenada. The following statistics demonstrate the seriousness of our brain drain. Human Flight and Brain Index scores Grenada 7.4 out of 10. In terms of the average, it's 7.79, and we score 7.40. The world average is 4.98, according to globaleconomy.com. Grenada has approximately 360,000 first, second, and third generation Grenadians living in the diaspora. In 2020, we had 6,200 first generation Grenadians living in the diaspora, 49 to 50% of our population. Most affected sector is health, meaning nurses, doctors, and then we come with education, teachers, and academics. Migration of the education workforce range 10 to 30%. In 2010, about 82.3% of Grenadians who are highly skilled migrated from Grenada. In 1980, that number rose to 56.4%. For the medical professional, it is reported by the World Bank that 7 out of every 10 doctors left the country. 7 out of every 10 doctors left the country. 60% of our health workers in the Caribbean say they migrated for opportunities that's better outside. Among those who have already migrated to the diaspora, many express better wages, working conditions, career opportunity are the things that created a condition for them to leave. About 39% of enterprises in Grenada, according to the World Bank, reported that inadequate educated workforce is a major constraint. The Caribbean is 23.3%, and the global average is 19.9%. It tells me Grenada. Imagine that. Grenada is 39%. Brothers and sisters, in 2008, Honorable Peter David, then Minister of Foreign Affairs, started the Diaspora Initiative. And during the period 2008 to 2012, there were 2 conferences and 1 homecoming. And I see a lot of faces here who attended the homecoming and attended these conferences. We developed a policy for the diaspora, and that policy came from the the diaspora themselves, people in the diaspora who helped us build that policy. We traveled to London, traveled to Canada, and here in the US to discuss the policy. That policy is sitting still today in Grenada. That policy, at the time it was launched in 2021, that policy was the only diaspora policy in the entire Caribbean. We, brothers and sisters, realize that we must have a mapping exercise to see where our skilled people are in the diaspora. We must also do a skills survey to see what is needed in Grenada for the development of our country. We, in a movement, do believe that you have a critical role in the development of Grenada. We believe that there should be somebody in the Senate representing the interests of the diaspora. If we have 360,000 living here and 110,000 living in Grenada, we have more Grenadians living here than we have home. So, brothers and sisters, we do appreciate all the support you give to the development of Grenada. We ask you to continue your support to the development of Grenada. We do believe that if it was not for the diaspora, Grenada probably would not have come out of COVID the way it came out. We raised over $100,000, close to $1 million in support from the diaspora. We had many doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals travel to Grenada to help us in COVID times. So you have a critical role in the development of our country. We don't want this to be a situation where you're just handing money, but you must play a role in the development of our country. You must be involved in the development of our country by being a voice of the development process. We need the diaspora to be able to be involved in different activities such as committees to advise. Do you believe that the diaspora is not only a place where you have the educated, but there are some of the most skilled Grenadians living in the diaspora, some of the most educated Grenadians living in the diaspora. So in order for us to develop, we must use the diaspora, we must involve you in the diaspora. So with the movement, we call on you to move together with us and make sure Grenada is developed. Thank you very much.
In economic justice and small business growth, we'll outline these things as we move along as part of our policy platform. Our next speaker, directly with the people who are marginalized. Folks, we need that. We have a lot of our people back home who are marginalized. And she has known our political leader, a great friend. You know, there's a biblical text, those of you who are Bible readers. A friend sticketh closer than a brother. She has known Peter for over 30 years, and we'll talk about why Peter's vision for Grenada resonates with her. New York, help me welcome Mrs. Jasmine Redden.
Good evening, Brooklyn. You're looking good.
Yeah.
You're looking pretty. But Brooklyn was home for a number of years, and some good memories, not so good ones. You all know how it is when people visit you from Grenada, and then when they announce where they plan to stay, and by that time all the fish and the groundnut sugar cake and tamarind ball run out, and you're saying, but wait a second, time for you to go back home, man. And you know, it was challenging to make that transition to Brooklyn, because it can either strengthen you or break you. But I did 12 years, I don't regret it. I learned a lot, I grew, and I was in my 20s back then. And I have to credit Mr. David I said it before, he doesn't even remember. But of course, when you come here and you ask friends or family, you know, what do I need to do? What steps should I take? How do I get my first job? Nobody knows. And eventually they tell you, what, girl, maybe you should go back home, you know. But when I spoke to Peter about my plans to stay here, I mean, without hesitation, he wasn't a family, he wasn't even a close friend then. But without hesitation, he told me step by step what I needed to do. That helped me land my first job. Then he advised me to take the bar exam. I said, you're crazy? People who study in New York can't pass the bar. Where are you going? He said, if I could do it, you could do it. And he told me step by step what I needed to do. And you know, I'm forever in his debt. So when he asked me to come back to Brooklyn in the cold, what can I say? Don't have a choice. Now, like many of you in this room, even while residing outside Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, I still, my heart, my head was still at home, because I still wanted to contribute in a meaningful way to my home. And I know what it feels like to stay over here and watch home from yonder shores and think, you know, if I could change things, if the system was fairer, more transparent, if our leaders were more focused on development rather than division. I know that the diaspora wants Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique to succeed. Not just look beautiful in the pictures and the postcards, but you really want Grenada to reach somewhere. You want the people to grow, you want us to thrive, you want us to be better. And that's why I'm part of this movement, because when I returned home in 2009, so it has been 16 years, and working as a family lawyer, I hear all the campaign promises, I hear all the rhetoric, all the talk, but I see daily the people who are struggling. I see their faces, I hear their cry. So the mother who's struggling to meet basic needs for her children, things we take for granted, I see her, I speak to her. The woman who stays in an abusive relationship because she feels there's no other option, I see her and I talk to her. The young people who can't even afford the bus fare to attend classes that I teach. The 18-year-old who has to go and get a job, so cannot come to class because they have to help the family put food on the table. The young people who feel hopeless, they can't see a future, they can't see beyond today. So I see all these people every day. I work with them. The citizens of our beautiful home who are forced to play politics, who feel if I don't put on a green shirt or a yellow shirt, I would not get the help I need for my family. The people who are afraid to get involved, some of them probably afraid to come here tonight because there's the fear of victimization. So that's not numbers, it's not statistics. I'm talking about real people carrying the weight of a system that just does not work for them. Now, if there's anyone capable of truly uniting Grenada and making change, real change, in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, is my friend of over 30 years, Peter David. And I've said it over and over again. Probably tired hearing me saying that, but it's true. For the 3 decades, I've seen him in the courtrooms, both in New York, downtown Brooklyn, and in Grenada, helping whoever walks through the doors. He'll come to court for one case, but 5 people line up outside, needing help. The one lawyer you can count on to jump up and help them. He's a fearless advocate. He fights for justice, for fairness. He just wants to give people a chance. That is not politics, ladies and gentlemen. That is character. And the movement did not begin with Peter. It began with us, with people at home, people in the diaspora, in the villages, in the communities, who are tired of the same old tribal politics, the games, the demonizing. I don't know how he does it. Sitting and listening to things about yourself that the people who are saying it know. They know it's not true, but they continue to say it, hoping to convince the people who don't care. The tearing down of each other and each other's families. We're tired of the weaponized partisanship, tired of seeing Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique becoming a battlefield where families become collateral damage. Because when you tear down somebody, that person has a mother, a brother, children. I have heard mothers say that a child did not want to go to school because they are being bullied because of what people are saying about their parents. What is the solution? In my view, ladies and gentlemen, I think good governance is the foundation of everything. We can't talk about development without talking about good governance. We can't talk about good governance without confronting the tribalism that continues to hold back Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and it has held us back for decades. It didn't just start yesterday. When party supporters treat each other like enemies, when intellectual energy is wasted, I see what goes on social media, tearing each other apart, when the goal becomes character assassination instead of national advancement. Something far more dangerous happens beneath the surface. Governance collapses. Decisions become political, not practical or what is best for our nation. Policies are shaped by who is loyal to the party, not based on merit. Opportunities go to the people who are most connected, not necessarily the people who are most qualified. And poor governance becomes the tax, the silent tax that we all pay. You in the diaspora, we in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So why should you care? Why should you in the diaspora care? Well, every initiative that you want to support in Grenada, every business venture, every scholarship, every partnership you're thinking about entering, every investment you're thinking about making, the welfare of your family and loved ones back home, your decision whether to one day retire at home depends on transparent, predictable, merit-based systems. And I want to pause to give you all some free advice based on a conversation I had in Toronto last night. If you have property in Grenada, don't sit here and say, oh, I have my deed in my hand. Pay attention to your property back home, because if 12 years pass and you haven't been paying attention, you could lose it. So you see, free advice, huh? That costs, I save you about $500 there. Now, good governance, it builds confidence. because then you know the system is fair. It reduces corruption and a waste of our resources. It strengthens institutions. It protects the citizens. It protects investors. It creates stability, and it makes any development sustainable. They build businesses, they shape policy, they strengthen communities, and when women rise, families rise, communities rise. Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique will rise. So I believe a serious movement, and that's why I'm part of it, will create space for real, and I emphasize the word real, women's leadership at every level, not as symbolism, but as a standard practice. So Brooklyn, let me end with this. I'm asking us to rise above the division and step into a future that we all can build together. Real unity isn't weakness. With the right leader, unity becomes strength, stability, and meaningful transformation. I stand with Peter and the movement because in 30 plus years, I've never seen him back away from service to our people. All I've seen him do is show real compassion for others. He leads with his heart and he fights with purpose. So I stand here as someone who believes deeply in good governance, because without it, nothing else works. I stand here as someone who cares about women, youth, families, small businesses, and every single person trying to live a dignified life. And I stand here with confidence because I know the character of Mr. David. He does not divide, he does not discriminate, he does not destroy. He listens to everyone. He may not agree with everyone, but he listens. He serves. He has served Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique faithfully for years. And he unites. You can play all his speeches. You have never heard him bash anyone or attack anyone personally, notwithstanding the personal attacks that are leveled at him. As I tell him, I say, if you wasn't important, they wouldn't talk about you. So my support for Peter and the movement, it's not political, it's personal, it is principled, and it's patriotic. So we are shifting politics from color to country, from tribalism to unity, from confusion and melee and bacchanal to competence, from barely surviving to succeeding. So you in the diaspora, together with us in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, I think we together can build the country, the type of country we all deserve to be proud of and call home. Thank you.
Mr. Bain, Justice of the Peace. The man hails from Fontenay, the Point area, son St. George's. He is a community activist from a very young age, holding several leadership roles in Fontenay and other St. George's Northwest communities, local and regional organizations. Allow me and bear with me as I read this man. He needs the credit. Okay, so allow me to talk about what he has done. He was the chairman of the NNP St. George Northwest and campaign manager in 2003 and 2022 elections. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the campaign manager when the person wins. We always pay attention to the candidate that wins. The campaign manager matters a lot. He's a strategic business executive and consultant with a proven track record of success, diverse sectors including finance, development, utilities, and transportation. His expertise straddles project management, microfinance, SME financing, financial risk management, contract negotiation, and corporate governance. He is an entrepreneur and owner-manager of business in the real estate, transportation, and merchandising sectors. Portfolios he has held: chairman of the board of directors of several statutory bodies, the National Lottery, SMAS. Were you in charge of SMAS when things were not going good? Gravel and concrete, rural development, among others. He was director of the Grenada Development Bank, director of Greenland, my man, head of department, Small Business Development Fund, Grenada, again, with the Grenada Development Bank, senior project manager, Department of Economic Technical Corporation, DETC in the Ministry of Finance. You didn't leave any jobs for anybody in Grenada, sir.
Good evening, New York.
Good evening.
Good evening, Brooklyn. Last week, I shouted you out from across the ocean. Today, I am here, eyeball to eyeball with you. And I must say that the moderator, I need to give him some history in trade unionism in Grenada so that he doesn't mix up the unions and what they stand for and who started them and who are the persons who have taken us thus far. Let me give a very special shout out to some special persons who I've known for as long as I've known myself. My cousins Pat and Alec, cousins and Alan, cousins from both sides of the family spectrum, mother and father. Good evening to you all, whether you're a Grenadian born in Grenada, Carriacou, or Petit Martinique, or Grenadian by relationship, or by association. Welcome to the movement. Because in the movement we accept all, because our code is unity. I must say a very special welcome and shout out to the Point Life family. And I see the Point is well represented. Ron and Natifa and all the other persons, Kel and Moses and all the other guys from St. George Northwest. You see, it is about the beginning of everything. Welcome. Last week, a flame was kindled in Grenada. You were either there or you were online when you saw a new song being echoed, the song of a people deciding that the time for waiting is over and that the time for building has begun. Last week we defined a movement as when ordinary people stop accepting that things can change and start changing them. That was the why. Tonight we want to move from the why to the what. What are we changing? And I met with a small group today, and Alec thanks for that opportunity to have that heart-to-heart discussion. What are we changing? How do we change it? What is our blueprint for a Grenada that is united and works for all of us? As I said, our code is about unity, it's about bringing people together. It's about getting the best of Grenada to perform the best for Grenada. The pathway out of poverty, the path to development, education. We are not looking at tinkering with the edges of education. We are looking at a fundamental transformation of our education system. For too long, we have been captured in a system that is based on exams and putting students in brackets. You remember the Standard 5A and the Standard 5B? The Standard 5A was destined to be our lawyers and our doctors, and the 5B was supposed to be our fishermen and our farmers and our road workers. We need to merge all of them together, where that road worker becomes an engineer, and that fisherman becomes a businessman and an entrepreneur, and that doctor or that lawyer, the person you taught would be the fisherman, becomes the doctor or the lawyer. We have to provide opportunities for all. How do we do that? We need to build a system of education equity and innovation, and education that is fit for purpose. For too long, we talk about how many subjects we have, and we brag, and I think all of us do it. We brag about kids at 10 subjects and 11 subjects, but we want to build an education system that is not just about what you have. It is what you bring to the table. Tools for modern learning, smart boards, and of course, we need to look at how do we immerse our special education and our vocational training. For too long, we see education as theory and not interacting or integrating vocational and skill training. They are all as important for national development. So this is about unlocking Grenadian genius, not letting them go to waste. And what is education? What is education without opportunity? Because you educate, you need to now provide the opportunity for interacting and for bringing that education to the fore. For too long, we have acted as if our youth and our elderly are separate. We are looking at generational equity. When you look at youth and you look at the elderly, they are part of the same coin, different sides of the same coin. So our plan is to bridge the generation gap. I want to ask him to lend me that magic wand that he seems to be waving to pull these figures out of that hat, or lend me that hat. Because the ILO report for 2024 reports our unemployment as over 24%, not including the over 30% Grenadians who have withdrawn themselves from active engagement in searching for employment. They have just thrown in the towel and decided the jobs don't exist, I'm no longer searching. That is the state that we are in, and we have to create the opportunities to get ourselves out of that mindset, get us out of that rut. We will give our young people a reason to stay home and to build at home. And nothing wrong in coming out and seeking opportunities and gaining experiences, but those same opportunities and experiences, some system of those must also exist at home to ensure that we have national development. We will implement a national policy on aging to protect our grandparents, the very ones who build the nation, with dignity, with secure pensions, and with community-based care that shields them from abuse and neglect. If we talk about family, we have to look at both our foundation and our future. We have to look after our youth and our elderly. But a prosperous nation, a developing nation, must also be a healthy and a productive nation. And that is why our third pillar is healthcare. Healthcare is a fundamental right. Healthcare cannot be a choice. It is a right, and every Grenadian must enjoy the right of healthcare for us to move that needle to national healthcare. Our people should not have to make a choice between buying a meal or buying medication. Health is a right, and every Grenadian must enjoy that right. New hospital sounds good, and I am not going to bash Project Polaris or the thought of a new hospital. What are we doing about our current hospital? How are we equipping that current facility? How are we ensuring that medication is available to our sick at affordable costs? We need to look at all of this, because a new hospital will not fix the system. How do we provide for our doctors and our nurses? We need to ensure that the persons, the practitioners of healthcare are also on board and also tooled and are also provided with the dignity to be able to deliver proper healthcare. Climate change is real. Climate justice is a prerequisite. And the movement, we join forces with all the persons across the region who are clamoring for climate justice. We need to be compensated for those impacts that we are receiving. We need to be provided with the support to ensure that we are able to mitigate against the onslaught of different disasters brought about by climate change. And we cannot just be talking about sustainable development. It has to be part of our national strategy. We are looking at the launch of a Green Job and Innovation Fund, and Dr. Bridgman spoke quite a bit about some of those funds and some of those groups that we need to create. Our farmers must be introduced and must be encouraged and given the tools to practice climate smart agriculture to ensure our local food security. Those of you who visited Grenada within August, September last year, you saw the prices of plantain. You see the impact on our cocoa and our nutmeg industries. We have to ensure that our food security is sustained by ensuring that the agricultural practices are part of that sustainable and climate smart development. We will adopt a clear net zero strategy. That means that we will balance the greenhouse gases we emit with the amount we remove from the atmosphere through practices as reforestation and the use of clean and renewable technology. This is about leaving a Grenada that is livable for our children and our grandchildren. And of course, economic justice and small business growth has to be one of the pillars of national development. Our economy must work for many and not for the few. So our plan, as I said earlier, it is unapologetically bottom up. We will expand access to low interest credit and startup grants for the market vendor, for the young tech entrepreneur, for the small baker and sautés, for the small farmer, the small fisherman, the small business owner. We will ensure that business hub and support structures are in place to ensure that these businesses are sustainable and they are viable. We need to look at one-stop small business support center. For too long, we have multiple different small business plans and programs, but they're all scattered in different locations. We need one landing platform where you can arrive at and have access to the different small business support systems that are in place. And it is not just about giving a grant or giving a low-income loan. Where is the support for that business? Where is the support to turn that young mechanic or that young engineer or that young body workman into a business owner? All business drive the economy. So these are 5 of the 7 major pillars. As I said, it's not in detail. Our other 2 major pillars you heard from Derek earlier in terms of for diaspora engagement, which we are doing now, and you heard from Jasmine on transparent governance. They are the glue that hold this entire plan together, ensuring that you have a real seat at the table. This is important. The diaspora is our 16th constituency. You need to have a real seat at the table. For too long, we use you as grant and support providers. You have a role to play. You wear Grenada on your sleeves, and we have to get you involved. So this is a substance. It is not a plan that was born it is a plan that was born from the conversations between neighbors who are tired of the old politics. It is a plan that takes us away from the politics of division. It is a plan that moves us away from the politics of hate. It is a plan that takes us away from the politics of fear. People being afraid to voice their opinions because of the repercussions, sometimes not on them, Because very often they don't mind the repercussions, or they believe they are shielded from that, but on the most vulnerable members of their families. And we see quite a lot of that is happening nowadays. You in this room, you are the proof that our greatest export was never nutmeg and cocoa, as much as we want to believe that. We want to believe that. Our greatest export is sitting right here in this room, right over there in the rooms in London and in Toronto. It is our resilient and talented people like you. So when you leave here tonight, we don't just want you to carry a memory of what you have witnessed here. We want you to share it. Importantly, we want you to challenge it. Challenge it. Ask us the hard question. But most importantly, we want you to join it. Join the cause of the movement. Because the movement isn't about what happened last week. It is about what we are deciding tonight and tomorrow and every day after. It is about looking around and realizing that we are the change. And when we say we are not talking about the 5 persons at the head table. We are the change, meaning every Grenadian. If you put your shoulders to the wheel, we can change our country. We can move our country forward together. And we challenge you to come on board. Unity is a code. Welcome to the movement, and let us build a better Grenada for all of us.
Allow me to introduce a man who has given courage, clarity, and leadership to this new political home. You know that he's a statesman of decades of service in Grenada. Different parties, that's what I like about him. Ideas. He's a leader shaped by experience, vision, and love for country. A Grenadian who believes the future must be built with the people, not imposed on them. Peter, there's a great quote. That's my last piece. There is a great quote that I have on my desk that one of my teachers gave me years ago during the Sandy hurricane, and I was leading in a time of crisis. And she gave me a quote by Mary Ann Radmacher. Look at it every day when I'm down and out. This is you. Courage does not always roar. Sometimes courage is that quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. That's you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to introduce the political leader of this movement, Mr. Peter David. Welcome again back to New York, sir.
Good evening everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me start by recognizing my colleagues on their table. There are a group of people who are courageous and have decided to join this struggle to build a better Grenada. So I want to give them a round of applause for being here. I also want to thank my brother Ralph, Lewis, Graceland there, and the other colleagues there. I don't want to call all the names. I want to recognize you and thank you for being with us this afternoon and for organizing this activity. And I think it's done, one of the things that we're facing, and I'll come to that later, is the issue of fear. I think there is a fear that is much more pervasive now than I've ever seen it in the history of the country. I want to also welcome several friends that I see in the audience. I want to say thanks for coming and hear us this evening. But before we start, I want to pay tribute to 3 people who died, who passed on. Our brother Theodore Bloods Redhead from River Road, Papi Ted's son, he died recently, and I want to recognize him. Also, our brother Raul Steele. Many of you may know Raul. Raul passed, and Raul was a pillar of our community. 1500 Carroll Street was the home for many, many persons who came to New York without a place to stay. So I want us to recognize and to see Royal has left a legacy that generations to come will recognize. And also, sadly passing yesterday, a good friend of ours, somebody who is part of the movement, who was at the launch, who spoke to me a couple of days ago about him going out, our brother Kelvin Alexis from St. David. Fortunately died yesterday evening, and that one really hit us hard. Kelvin was part of the movement, young man in his 40s, I think, and I want to say how sad it is and to express our condolences to his family, his children, and his many friends. Kelvin was with us from the start of this journey, and we are going to miss him. So let's just stand up and give a 1 minute of silence to these colleagues. You saw what we had last week. We had an excellent launch. Many Grenadians came out, people from all walks of life, people from all political persuasions. In fact, I said in the lead-up that come as you are. Come in your yellow, your green, your blue, but come to hear us. And hundreds of Grenadians came out last week, Sunday, to hear us. So we are here today, coming out to the diaspora. We were in Toronto last night, we're in New York today, to spread the word as to what the movement is about. And we've come to the diaspora. We've come to the diaspora because, as said by colleagues previously, that we don't treat the diaspora as a group that, you know, when the hurricane comes, you send down some stuff. When political parties want some jersey, they send for it. Or when somebody wants some hampers, they send you to send out, ask you to send some barrels. As far as we are concerned, the diaspora is part of a development process. In fact, it was in this hall about a couple of years ago that I said that I will recommend, and I've recommended and said it publicly, that a senator should be appointed to deal with diaspora affairs, because we have senators appointed for businesses. We have senators appointed for trade unions, for agriculture. I believe that the diaspora is extremely important to national development and therefore needs to be treated as such. I mean, the diaspora has made tremendous contributions throughout the years. Most of our political leaders were in the diaspora. Gary in Aruba, Blaise in London, Keith Mitchell in the United States, George Rizan in Canada, Maurice Bishop in London. They all experienced the diaspora at one time or another. But your potential is yet to be realized. Certainly we have many Grenadians making contributions. I mean, in healthcare, I think about Dr. Roland Person, who does a lot for Grenadians who come out here and have healthcare challenges. I think about many Grenadians who help by coming to St. George's, coming to Grenada, coming to St. Andrews, coming to the rural areas to help in providing services. We believe that the diaspora should be more integrally involved. For example, I know there are proposals to establish a diaspora bond where persons with resources can find a way to provide capital, something I'll speak about in a while. The point I'm making is this. Many speakers have said it, and I'm saying it now, that we believe, and I, as Minister for Diaspora Affairs, in fact, I think I was the first Minister for Diaspora Affairs, and there was a reason for that. I lived in London for 5 years, I lived in Canada for 5 years, and I lived in New York for 10 years. So I understand the patriotism of the diaspora. As I said, and I recorded it, the further away Grenadians go from Grenada is the more patriotic they become. And we must find a way to harness the energy, harness the resources for development. And that we have tried to do. We have established the Office of Diaspora Affairs. We've had conferences. We've collaborated with the United Nations to develop programs. What has happened, as always happens, when governments change, what one government starts, the other government stops until that next government comes into office. Stop, start, stop, start. That is the history of our country. Why do we have the DPM, the Democratic People's Movement? Why have we decided to go this route? After the episode I had, and we had, because many of us were involved in it with the last membership in a political party that I had, we sat for days, weeks, and contemplated what must be done. As one speaker said, yes, I did undergo a lot of pressure, blows. I sat on a head table like that when somebody stood in front of me and just say all kinds of things about me, and I had to sit there wondering if it's a smile, if it's to cross my legs. I had to change my body to suit the blows that was coming. That we're going in circles. We believe that we don't need to form a new party for the future. What we need to do is to change the style of politics that we have. We need a fundamental change in the way we do business in Grenada, particularly the way we do politics. We believe that because people are fed up and cynical, that would lead to further deterioration in the fabric of our society. Thousands do not vote. Thousands of Grenadians don't care to vote. Thousands do not register. Many are scared to become involved in politics. Many people would want to be here but would not come because they would say to them when they get home, "Oh, you went in Peter thing? You're afraid your sister lose her work or your daughter lose your work?" That happens, and that is extremely dangerous to the development of our country. We believe that all of the things that my friend Archie spoke about and the other speakers spoke about are laudable achievements if we could get it done. The problem is that there are some fundamental issues. This movement is about ideas. It's about policies. It's about actions. Because we believe that is what needs to be addressed. Not by a few people, but by all of our people. And some of these issues have been articulated. We have said, and I said at the launch, that we have a proposal that every young person getting to the age of 35 should be granted $35,000 in assistance from the government as a deposit to purchase a house. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason that we believe we should assist a young person to get a home, because that house will begin a process of wealth creation for that family. That house will be used to take a mortgage, to finance education. It will be used in order to find capital to buy other things for the kids. And if you're a family, a man, wife, and kids, you should be given $50,000 to acquire a home. We believe that proposal will certainly help with establishing and creating what we call generational wealth. We also believe that people should be trained. We should do an assessment of all of the persons in working people in the country and see what it is they want to do, what it is they're doing. Because one of the problems we have also is training people to leave the country. We are not training people for the jobs that are available in Grenada. So that again was mentioned by Archie. We need to ensure that business is easier to establish businesses than it is now. We rank 144th in the world in doing business. It means that anybody trying to start a business in Grenada, it will be nearly impossible, but certainly extremely difficult. We believe access to capital is something that we need to focus on. It is easier to walk in a bank, as I say in all the meetings, and get a loan to buy a car or bus. As I said last night, you may even be able to walk out the bank with a car or the bus. But go and ask them, you want to establish a business. Extremely difficult. so that many of our people remain poor because the financial institutions are so risk averse that it is extremely difficult for people to get money to start a business. You hear that all over Grenada. But that is the only way we will get rid of poverty. And as we said, and I said in a meeting last week, poverty is not only bad for people, it is bad for business. With that degree of poverty, businesses suffer. As Archie indicated also, we need to ensure that we deal with the issue of high cost of living. That is a problem in the country, but the only way we can do it is the similar fight for national food security. We need to grow what we eat and eat what we grow, but we need to establish agriculture as a modern industry. So there are all these ideas that we have. Healthcare. Archie raised the point that we need to deal with the issue of medication. Too many people call me and say, Peter, I need some help to buy medicine. And I say, are you taking your medicine? And the answer is, well, I'm supposed to take it every day. No, I'm taking it every other day because I cannot afford to take it every day. That leads to serious health problems. That leads to men getting strokes and because they're not able to manage their blood pressure because they can't afford to buy the medication. We need to deal with these issues. As he indicated, I like the idea of a spanking big hospital. But if we can't manage a little one that we have, I don't know how we'll manage a big $250 million hospital. And those are issues we need to discuss. The people need to become involved in these discussions because it touches and concerns the welfare and the health of our people. We also need to ensure that we train people for the hospitals that we are building. If, as I said, if we can't have people to deal with the hospital that we have now, how will we deal with a hospital that is big and that is requiring much more support? Brothers and sisters, these are serious issues. On the issue of foreign policy, and I'm going to come to a fundamental issue in a few minutes, we are launching this movement at a time of profound global change. The world around us is shifting in ways that directly affect small island developing states. Our diplomacy must serve our developmental imperatives. That is why we have said, and I have said, that on the issue of the Caribbean remaining a zone of peace, that is not a political issue alone. It is also an economic issue for us. Because if war breaks out in the Southern Caribbean, our fishermen and fisherwomen will be seriously affected. The tourist ships will not come to the Caribbean, will not come to the Southern Caribbean, and you know this is the tourist season. So the issue of zone of peace, and the reason I spoke about it, is not simply because I believe that our sovereignty is affected. I also believe that our people, our economy, our tourist vendors, our fishermen and fisherwomen will be affected by it, and that is why I spoke out. Sadly, not many politicians spoke out about it, but I believe that we need to have courage, not loud, cussing courage, but determination to protect what we have in the Caribbean. As one politician told me, he said, Peter, I disagree with you, but at least you have the courage to speak what you believe. And reasonable people can disagree. There is nothing that says that what I say is truth. But certainly, we must have the courage to speak what we believe is our truth. So, brothers and sisters, we need to achieve these things. But here's what I believe is a fundamental problem facing our country. We believe that the strength of a nation lies not in the power of a few. The strength in a nation does not lie in the power of a few. It lies in the participation of all. That is our strength. Without that participation of our people, our development will be retarded. Our struggle and our main struggle, and the reason we've come to this position, is because of the issue of unity. Unity is a development issue. I know there are many people who don't believe it's possible. I do not believe it's a pie-in-the-sky idea that we could develop a model, a system in our country where our people come together to discuss national development issues. I look at the countries that have developed rapidly in recent decades, and the countries that have developed rapidly are countries that have a development plan and a mechanism for the people to become involved in the execution, in the developing and the execution of that development plan. Let me give you an example for us. We have a development plan. How many of you have read the National Development Plan 2035? All right, let me start by saying, how many of you have a copy? Really? You're telling me that nobody in this room has a copy of our Development Plan 2035? Does anybody have a copy of Vision, what's it called, 75 or something like that? 75? Does anybody have a copy of that? Or one man has a copy of that? That's a smaller document, isn't it? Yeah, it's a much smaller document. One man has it. In a room full of diaspora people who are part of our development, and let me tell you this, you are not unique. When I ask the same question in Grenada, the same response comes. Now here it is. We have a development plan that was developed by technicians that outlines our development for the period from about 2020 to 2035. And not one of us in this room has read it, even has a copy of it. And the same response comes in Grenada. You know why? Because while politicians draw up these plans, it is never intended for the people to be part of the plan. A country cannot develop and cannot execute a development plan unless the people are involved. Because you are the ones who are mandated to develop the country through that national development plan. And there's a reason for that. You know, football season, I think Dr. Bridgman mentioned it. I'm sure there are people here who follow American football. When the coach sits in a room, he has a plan for the game this evening with the New York Jets and whoever. There's a plan. So he outlines the plan and he gets the players involved. And each player must play his or her part, whatever the sport is, in developing, in playing that game on that particular day. If you go away from the plan, first of all, if the players on the team have never seen the plan or were never in the room when the plan was being articulated and developed for development in the country, what we do is allow the politicians to have all the power over you. You allow them the power. Rather, what it should be is that you give them a job and you keep the power. But the reverse is our reality. So we have a national development plan. Nobody knows about the plan. And we say we are developing. But you know what? We can come together. I see you in the diaspora in times of crisis, loading containers, going around getting supplies, and you do it regardless of your political orientation. I don't see you looking around and say, well, use that NMP, you can't come and help with help us doing what you're doing, or use that NDC. The diaspora has shown us that our people can come together to build something. We come together all the time. But if you recognize, and this is one of the core principles that we have, if you recognize that your enemy is poverty. Your enemy is unemployment. Your enemy is lack of health care. Then we'll move forward. But for as long as we treat our neighbors as the enemy, because that neighbor wears a different color than what you wear, then we have a problem. Because the fact is, I've seen it. I've seen families torn apart because of politics. I've seen people don't talk to their neighbor because of politics. And this has an impact on our economic development. This has an impact on community development. You know, I went to a village up in the countryside about a month ago, and I tell this story all the time, and I asked, why aren't there many people here tonight? And I was told that the NDC had a meeting in Grenville, and the NFP had a meeting in St. Patrick, I think Rose Hill. So nobody is in the village tonight. So members of the tribes went to different locations to have a meeting. Fair enough. And then I asked a further question. Is there anywhere or any time when the people in this village come together just as villagers with all the tribal colors? And I'm told no. I'm told no, that they never come together to talk about how the road should be constructed, how healthcare should be delivered, how the agricultural sector should be dealt with. No, they don't come together and do that. What they do is meet under their tribal colors. I have said, if you put all the Grenadians in the room here, you're all here today, and we can all agree that what I'm saying makes sense. Let's assume that you think what I'm saying makes sense. I'll tell everybody go back out the door. But when they come back in the tribal colors. And that tribe sit there and the next tribe sit there. War will break out. I saw in the last referendum that we had, this one is kind of hilarious. In the last referendum that we had, there were certain provisions. Now, after the last elections, in fact, before the last elections, everybody was saying, Dr. Michel should leave, he stayed too long, he should leave, he shouldn't be there, he should be here. And therefore, they wouldn't vote for him because he stayed too long. And they didn't even recall that there was a provision in the referendum for term limits that would have ensured that he left. But because your tribe didn't bring the referendum, you voted against it. The point I'm making is that sometimes you go against your own interest because you're being tribal. I said to people, we need to sit and discuss the issues about development, or else we will be in this constant spiral to the bottom. The way we do it this evening. Everybody in this room came from a party that is not the movement. But you're able to sit here this afternoon because you want to hear what I have to say and what others have to say. And we want to discuss these issues. And that is great. We must find a way to structure that into our governance. We must find a way that we could have some mechanism in our constituencies, in our communities, where that exists, always fighting. So that is why we believe we should find a way to formalize constituency council units, giving them genuine decision-making autonomy over local projects and resource allocation. Karakou has a constitutional provision for local government. Unfortunately, while it's been said time and time again that they will fulfill the constitutional mandate which says Karakou and Petimatic must have local government, it has never been implemented in this period for years. And there's a reason for that. Now, the reason why local government was removed, at least one of the reasons, they say it is expensive. But there's another reason that the politicians at the center feel threatened by persons in the communities having too much power. And that is why local government doesn't exist. But we need to discuss it. Because our communities need to be empowered to build them, to build themselves. So that, again, is something that we are looking at. Brothers and sisters, people will say it's a dream. Of course. People will say we're dreaming this unity thing. It's a dream. In fact, I've sat with politicians in the parliament and I said to them, you know, we can really pull the country together if we have the will. And if we pull the country together, we will have more rapid development, the way it is done in countries like Singapore, in China, in other countries throughout the world. It has happened by pulling the people together. But they say it can't be done, it's a dream. And my answer to the question that unity is a dream is that yes, it is a dream. All our families have dreamt about building the family, sending the kids to school. My family, my mother and father didn't grow up, I didn't go to university, I didn't grow up with resources. In fact, I became a lawyer because my mother dreamed of being a lawyer, but she couldn't afford it. She literally forced me to become a lawyer. I don't regret it, but she pushed me, literally brought me to university and urged me to become a lawyer because she dreamt herself of becoming a lawyer. So yes, dreaming is good. You dream of doing better for your kids. The thing is, you dream and you work hard at achieving the dream. Each generation must pursue the dream of a better life for their kids than the previous generation. So brothers and sisters, yes, we dream of a better society. And we submit as members of the movement that all the dreams that was outlined by Archie and Jasmine and Dirk, these dreams will only be fulfilled if we come together. If we come together as a people, not come together as two separate tribes divided by color. This was not always with us. The color politics came in the 1980s. Those of you who are around know how and who and why it came into being. If it started at some point, we can get rid of it, but we must dream of it. And if we accept that that is a problem, then we must accept that it's up to us, the people, to solve that problem. You see, there are people who benefit from the cussing and the division and the nonsense. There are people who want to keep our people divided. Look at Africa. Africa didn't always have 55 nations, 55 countries. Imagine what it would be like for a powerful Africa come together as a united Africa. But you know why Africa is divided? You know, when you were growing up, they make us believe that Africans just like to fight each other. It was the Europeans who divided Africa in the late 19th century that has caused what has happened to Africa in the last 2 centuries to happen. But now there's an awakening. Look at what is happening. There's an awakening. Africa has come to the decision, many of them, to unite to build the strength of Africa. Because it started with the Europeans, but it can end with the Africans. Look at CARICOM. Why did Eric Williams and Forbes Bonham and all of the leaders in the region decide on CARICOM? Why? They decided that a united CARICOM, a united Caribbean, is more powerful than a divided Caribbean. But do you believe that the powers that be want a united Caribbean? No. So what has happened? There are attempts by powers that be to divide the Caribbean and to keep the Caribbean that way in order to dominate. And that is what happens in our countries. If you can split families, if you can split communities, it is easier to manipulate communities. Brothers and sisters, I'm saying this because we have a programmatic platform. There are details. We can come to you and say, we have all the solutions. We can solve all your problems. We can promise you increased wages. We can promise you everything. But that is what has been happening. What we want to happen is you, the people, Grenada and in the diaspora to understand that it is you who have the power. United, not divided. Not with one side of the family cussing the other side because a politician says so. I remember in a parliament a few months ago, there was all kinds of bacchanal. And I looked to some school children sitting in a hall. I said, please, do not believe this is the way we should be. Because after we leave here, meaning the politicians, we go in and sip wine together while you all believe it's fight, we always fighting.